You're about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So when George Clooney talks, people might listen. Now, George Clooney, an actor who has been a very staunch supporter of President Biden, is now calling for Biden to step down. He said he is not the same man we saw in 2020, back in 2010. And to see Hollywood finally speak out. I had said yesterday that the House Democrats did not look like they were at all agreed on removing Biden and then have to put all their eggs in the Kamala Harris basket, as it could be very difficult to replace him. This might change things now that you got George Clooney and his money and his fancy fundraisers. And George Clooney, I love his acting. In fact, on my list, you know how, you're supposed to have you could have 5 people on your list of who you could be with, and your husband's supposed to say it's okay. My list is 5,000 names, and he has probably 200 of those spots. I love George Clooney. He is a fantastic actor. But what's happening now is, as you can't just keep saying it's cheap fakes or it's a cover up. Now Biden's doctors' integrities are questioned. Now the Democratic House members' integrity is questioned. Now everybody's integrity is questioned. Karine Jean-Pierre, who I think, with the challenge she has, the White House spokesperson, she is doing as good as she can. You see the frustration. And what's frustrating is now people's reputations are on the line. And so psychologically, what we're going to be seeing now with this election is people are now going to have to be every man for themselves and go, okay, look, it's one thing to be loyal to the party and loyal to our commander in chief, but it's another thing to get on camera and say something that could be used against us. As you're starting to see video footage of Biden is strong, Biden is sleek, he is astute, this man is on it, he is more powerful than anybody, and now they are regretting some of these sound bites that are circulating. So George Clooney, very interestingly, multiple media outlets, but I believe, I think this was in the New York Times op-ed. Once media outlets all over the place start reporting it, I want to give credit where credit's due. And he said he has major concerns about whether Biden can serve 4 more years. He condemned the Democratic Party leaders for ignoring every warning sign on Biden's declining physical and mental health. And he said that Democratic voters, quote, collectively hold our breath or turn down the volume whenever we see the president, who we respect, when we see him walk off Air Force One or walk back to a mic to answer an unscripted question. So Clooney is now joining more and more Democrats who are now calling for him to step down. And he says, I love Joe Biden. Actually, no, this is, he says, I love Joe Biden as a senator, a vice president, as a president. I consider him a friend, and I believe in him. I believe in his character, believe in his morals. In the last 4 years, he's won many of the battles he's faced, but the one battle he cannot win is the fight against time. He says none of us can. It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe Big Effin' Deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020, he writes. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate. And so now what's happening is, as I've said, everybody is now realizing that their reputation is on the line if they don't say the right thing. And, it's one thing, and I get it. I get being loyal. I am a loyal Dallas Cowboy fan. And over many, many years, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's a little difficult, but there's my allegiance. And I get it. I respect people's allegiance. But on the other end, if you really are allegiant to the Democratic Party, then you want the Democrats to be strong. You don't want them to be forced to be in this cover-up debacle. You also want your commander-in-chief getting the medical care he needs. I mean, if he needs care, if he needs an MRI, if he needs rest, if he need you want that to happen. You can't just force something, because then it hurts the Democrat. This is hurting the Democratic Party more than helping them. And so, it's going to be interesting, because now people are feeling, okay, wait a second here. I haven't been able to speak out. No, and did it really take George Clooney only? And I understand he needed this out. So he said, what was the fundraiser that he did for him? That's what but he admits, look, everybody's holding their breath when, he's on Air Force One, and they're, nervous when he gets on the mic. This has been something that's been going on for years. Now that the suppression has been lifted and Democrats feel confident to be able to talk about it, and, now it's going to be up to each and every individual on what they do. Now, if you're saying Biden is fit to serve, okay, that is going to be caught on tape. That is going to be with you for the rest of your political career. If you say Biden is struggling, that's also going to be with you. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And you now start to see everybody try to hedge and go, well, Nancy Pelosi's been starting to kind of come up with, the proper verbiage. And as a doctor, I'm going to tell you, the man needs some help. And being commander-in-chief, that's very, very taxing. And I don't think he is the most effective commander-in-chief that this country has to offer. So get the man some help. But it'll be interesting to see now that you got Hollywood starting to turn and speak up. It'll be interesting to see what everybody else says. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. And big thanks to Daniel, our producer. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So we've spoken about this, but this is starting to get a little bit out of hand. And more people with diabetes are reporting that they cannot get their GLP-1 agonists or some of their diabetic medications, as this weight loss drug frenzy is going to epic proportions. And as a physician, I'm mixed, because I want people to lose weight. I think weight loss could be extremely important in our fight to obesity and to limit heart disease and stroke and cancer. But I also understand that the medications only work when you have access to them. And when you have somebody who has diabetes that is not getting the medications, you're not doing America a service as a whole if your diabetics are going to now not get the control and the blood sugar control and the weight loss control and the other benefits that they get from these medications if they're going to people who don't have diabetes. I don't like to use the term you're diabetic or non-diabetic, but you're going to see that term used a lot for ease of explaining what's been going on. But what's fascinating is Roe. It has a GLP-1 supply tracker. This is a very fascinating tool. And they have reported what they have is actually this way to allow people to let them know in their local area where there's a shortage of Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, because these are medications that many people with diabetes use, and people now with weight loss. Rybelsus, I think, would be another one, but I don't see that on the list here. And so they ask you to let's help each other track and find GLP-1 supply. And so you could say that you can't find the GLP-1s, or the GLP-1s you have been able to find. And you see Wegovy, major shortages. Thousands of people reporting that they can't get that. Now, Wegovy is your weight loss FDA-approved medication that is the Ozempic counterpart. Ozempic is supposed to be for those with diabetes. Wegovy are for those who are using it for weight loss. Unfortunately, people are just trying to get their hands on whatever they can. So Wegovy right now, major short supply. Mounjaro, a medication that is used for diabetes. Apparently, very, very limited. Zepbound is the Mounjaro weight loss side counterpart. Ozempic, we're having people report shortages, but not as bad as the others, but still shortages. Saxenda, major short supply. Victoza as well. And it's interesting because when you look around, you see this in Idaho. It says patient reporting a shortage in Berlin, New Jersey, and Sheridan, and Chicago. So it allows patients an opportunity to share what they're seeing. I'm getting feedback from patients who are calling in going, I can't get my medications. What could I substitute for that? I'm like, why can't you get your diabetes medications? They say they're out. Now, we've had drug shortages. We have a lot of drug shortages. It's including the ADHD medications. It's including some chemotherapy agents. There's been some very significant injectables that are needed, and infusion medications that are needed in hospitals in short supply. And we understand, since the labor crisis and the supply chain crisis, there's been issues. Not to mention, probably somebody is doing some good quality analysis and finding that some of these labs or companies need to, reevaluate some of their processing mechanisms. So remember, there was the ARB recalls, losartan, valsartan, because there was a generic company in China that had, as accidentally as a byproduct, created NDMA, NDEA, which are known carcinogens. So lots, 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 not a lot, but I guess a lot, but lots of many of these ARB generic drugs had to be recalled. And I had said years ago, I think this all started in 2018, that there could be other it might not just be a China thing. It could be another generic lab issue where whatever they're using, whatever process they're using or protocols they're using, ends up just coincidentally making these as byproducts. So we need to reevaluate all the generic companies. And so I wonder if that could also be a part of this, where everybody's had to kind of reevaluate some of their manufacturing process now that we have, again, science evolves. You know, a lot of times we learn, that might be a mistake. And remember with Viagra, we had a big moment because because I can't do it like Homer Simpson, because people were dropping when Viagra first came out. And we found out those people who were just dropping and low blood pressure, or even, I think, dying even because they were taking nitrates or sublingual nitrates or nitroglycerin for their heart condition. We needed to reevaluate and go, guys, remember, if you're taking another medication, you can't mix the two. So we do learn as we go. How many of you now have been told, you got to be careful taking Zofran for nausea if you're taking antidepressants? Can't be mixing your oral yeast medication if you're taking an antidepressant like an SSRI. So we learn as we go. The problem we have is we have a huge population, millions of people who have diabetes, where they are not managing their sugar well. And these medications are so earth-shattering, and they are so crucial and such a watershed moment in diabetes management, because we're limiting the reactive hypoglycemia that a lot of diabetics have. You know, it was really counterintuitive to the patient when I would have to prescribe a medication to them for their diabetes and say, now you need sugar on you. So what? I want you to have some sugar tablets. But I have diabetes. I go, because as I explained, this medicine could cause hypoglycemia. So this medication could stimulate the pancreas too much or drop your sugars too low. So you always have to, just in case, have something on hand. And I couldn't stand that. You don't see that a lot with these GLP-1s. It's more steady sugar control. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. They're great. With weight loss, however, everybody wants to look like Oprah now, or everybody wants to look like these stars that have lost amazing amounts of weight. I think Kelly Clarkson is promoting another type of weight loss drug. I have to look up what she's on, but she's lost a lot of weight. She looks amazing. But if you can't get the medication, it's temporary. And when patients are calling me saying, I don't know what to do, I haven't been able to get my shot, or I haven't been able to get my medication, and I'm gaining the weight back, then maybe that's not the best medication to be on. There is no guarantee you're going to be able to have access to that medication. And by the way, all this is happening when we aren't even in the thick of what a foreign entity or a hacker could do. I mean, look at how our hospital systems are so vulnerable to cyber attacks, to if a foreign element who doesn't like us, an enemy, or a bad actor wants to mess with us, they could very easily mess with our supply chain, with our pharmaceuticals. And, it's challenging enough for those with diabetes to need medications to live and to function. But we are blowing through our supplies for people who don't have life-threatening conditions. And we did this before we have the infrastructure in place. I don't think they can make enough medication. Now everybody and their mother wants to be on the drugs. And these drugs are very expensive. You think the prices are going to go down? No. It's still going to be about $1,600 a month. People are paying cash for this. You're like, whoa. And so for those of you who are starting to see the writing on the wall, if you are on these weight loss drugs and you don't have diabetes, what would happen? Well, number one is you might not get your medication. Number two, the price may go up. Number three, expect insurance companies to say, we can't raise premiums high enough to cover this. Or your premiums are now skyrocketing, but I'm not taking the medication. Doesn't matter. Your premiums are higher. But be prepared that Biden, who says he is, going up against Big Pharma and is tough against Big Pharma, which we really didn't see with the vaccine mandate, but he's saying he's doing that now. And he is putting diabetics first even though Trump also lowered insulin to $35, but then that got rescinded when Biden came in and then Biden brought it back. I just want people with diabetes to have cheaper insulin. So you know what? Whoever takes credit, I don't care. Just get those with diabetes the help they need. But if Biden is pro that population, he might come out saying, guys, until all diabetics have the medications they need, we're limiting the weight loss drugs. So keep in mind, something like that could happen. Not going to be popular, especially before an election. So it might happen after the election. 1-877-Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or Dr. Daliah on Twitter, or don't. You know what? You could follow me on Twitter. You don't have to make a choice. I wouldn't make you make that choice. All right. There's a lot of choices you guys have to make. And of course, Facebook, the Dr. Daliah Show. So here we go, guys. All right. There is a new human plague case confirmed in Colorado. Now, when we hear the plague, everybody's like, oh, the plague. We have a low number of these that happen on a yearly basis. This is not something to panic over, but it is something that we need to be aware. Okay, in New Mexico, a man had died from the plague in March. Oregon officials confirmed a case of plague in February from an infected cat. So now this case has been confirmed in Colorado. The Pueblo Department of Public Health and Environment said it was still investigating the source of the plague in a Pueblo County resident, but they are advising people to seek a health care visit if they show symptoms of the plague. What are symptoms? Sudden fever, chills, severe headache, muscle aches, nausea, vomiting, and a feeling of illness. You also go get swollen lymph nodes, painful lymph nodes, and plague can infect humans, pets. According to the health department, they say people get the plague from bites of infected fleas, by touching or skinning infected animals, or inhaling droplets from the cough of an infected person or animal. And so luckily we could cure it. We have ways to treat the plague. We average in the U.S., according to the Hill, about 7 cases a year. According to the CDC, they have recorded about 500 cases total between the years 1970 and 2022. And so we speak about the plague. And actually, we spoke about the Oregon resident back in February. And they say the last confirmed U.S. human case was reported previously in 2015, but I don't think that's true. I think we've had more. But the CDC says less than 10 human cases on average occur each year in the U.S. So I was a little confused about that statistic we found because there's, but on the other end, also the confirmed case, meaning somebody was tested. So we have a lot of individuals who go, oh, it's COVID or it's the flu, or they call telemedicine to get treatment and they might get better on their own. In 2019, 3 cats in Wyoming tested positive for the plague. Meow! And thank God no humans were affected. My cat the other day brought in a snake at night. My son was up and he sees this big, long, it was a coach whip. So thank God it wasn't a rattler. But my cat goes out the doggy door and brings back gifts, snakes in the house. Luckily, my son was up. I posted the video and he was able to get the snake. I think the snake bit the cat because I saw the cat in the video licking her paw, but she's fine. We examined her. Everything's okay. But what if she brought in a rattlesnake? Oh, my gosh. We should be dead by now. So your cats could be, unfortunately, a source of plague because, they hunt. When I was in medical school, there was a lady, I believe she was from Lake Tahoe, whose kitty cat was not feeling well and coughing on her. So she had the kitty cat on her chest. She was petting the kitty cat, going, "Oh, poor kitty cat. My little baby, are you okay?" And the kitty cat coughed on her. And cats don't usually cough. They might do a sneeze, especially while you sleep right in your face because they like to do that. They think it's funny. They're not big coughers. Fortunately, she got the pneumonic plague, a type of plague, and ends up dying. So you need to be aware. There's 3 types of plague. Bubonic plague causes buboes. What are buboes? Big lymph nodes. Bubonic plague is the most common. And so one sign of it is you have big swollen lymph nodes. Pneumonic plague infects the lungs, but what makes pneumonic plague so worrisome is it's spread by respiratory droplets. So somebody coughing next to you, your cat coughing next to you could give it to you. And then there's septicemic plague. Septicemic plague infects the bloodstream and can result in untreated, or that can result after you've been exposed to either bubonic or pneumonic plague. So it's caused by the bacteria Yersinia pestis, and it more commonly affects the southwestern states. But as you could see, we're seeing it also in other states like Oregon and Wyoming, etc. And the plague had been responsible for multiple epidemics years ago. Now that we have antibiotics, we can manage it. So fever, chills, body aches, weakness, headache, big swollen glands or buboes, cough, shortness of breath, blood in your sputum, you got to get these checked out. Don't just call telemedicine and say, I need antibiotics for my bronchitis. You got to get it checked out. What are some of the antibiotics we use? Ciprofloxacin, doxycycline, streptomycin, gentamicin. If you have serious plague, you could die within hours. So we might have to give you IV fluids. We might have to give you oxygen. So to avoid the plague, obviously, is paramount. So how do you avoid the plague? Well, some of these cases, interestingly, were people who were exposed to feces of animals. So one good thing to do is try to avoid feces. Okay? I know some of you like to collect them, like to examine them. No. Eliminate places where rodents could hide around the home, including removing brush and rock piles. Mice. My cats like to bring in rodents also. Like, are you kidding me? Let them be outside. Don't be bringing that in. And I told you guys, I never understood when I'd be watching Tom and Jerry why you would see the mom in a skirt, because these were older, older cartoons, jump on a chair every time she saw Jerry and screech. And I told my mom, I go, really? Why? And my mom was like, because they carry disease. Well, one of the reasons why people are very fearful is because of the plague. Also, avoid contact with dead animals. Use insect repellent that contains 20 to 30% DEET. This is according to CPR.org to prevent flea bites. So fleas could transmit it to your animal. You also don't want your animal or you getting flea bites. Do not let pets sleep in bed with you. Well, can you please tell my pets? It is absolutely ridiculous between the dog and the cats. Everybody jumping on and off the bed. I tried that. Say no bed. This is mommy's and daddy's bed. Go bye-bye. They don't care. They don't care. I'm like, guys, this is our bed. They say make sure you're treating your dogs and cats for fleas regularly. Do not allow pets to stray in areas known for rodents, like prairie dog colonies. And keep pet food in rodent-proof containers. So, our animals can be huge sources of this. And it's a shame because, I want people to be outside. I want people to have animals, and I get it. Dogs like to kiss us. They always, talk about how it's a bad thing for your animal to kiss you. And those of us with animals go, our dogs kiss us. Every time I come home, my doggie goes crazy. I lift her up, and she wants to. And it's interesting that she licks my face, but she licks my. I had one cat that was driving me crazy one night after I adopted her, and she jumps up and then she licks my lip and jumps off. It's like animals learn humans. They know humans show affection with their mouth. If you really want to show affection to your cat, you bring your head down and then you do a little head butt. And that, so one of my cats, I just bring my head down and, but if you go, coochie coochie coo, and I'm going to do kissies, they don't, that's not how they learn us. And they're like, okay, I guess humans giving kissies is what they do. And so sometimes they will then approach your mouth, but it's not, So with your dog, just show your dog attention, give your dog love, keep your dog out of the heat, but you don't necessarily have to let your dog lick your face. That's not good. A lot of bacteria. A dog's mouth is disgusting. And for those of you that doubt that, I'm telling you right now, my dog will go into the cat litter box and eat their poo-poo. Do you really want that licking your face every day? 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, very quickly, the jury for Alec Baldwin's Rust shooting trial had been chosen and confirmed by special prosecutors. This began, I think, yesterday, and it's a jury of 16, including 4 alternates, chosen to hear the arguments if Alec Baldwin is guilty of involuntary manslaughter for the fatal shooting of Helena Hutchins on the set of Rust. So the jury selection began Tuesday, and arguments have already started as of today. And, this is, this is going to be a very, very interesting case because Alec Baldwin, again, a very highly accredited actor, but nobody should have died. And right now we're not going to get a lot of details because Alec Baldwin has been told by his team, do not talk to the media, which is understandable. Jurors also informed they can't obviously speak. We're getting a little bit of information from Fox News as to, who some of these jurors are. 3 of the potential jurors shared strong views on gun safety during jury selection. Baldwin's attorney, Alex Spiro, requested the group share their views during a 50-minute voir dire. And a woman said, I was always taught to always double check. The man added, I was taught a firearm needs to be treated as loaded all the time, and you never point it at another person. Treat any gun, real or fake, as a loaded gun, another potential juror said. And Baldwin's attorney also asked the group if anyone had leanings towards law enforcement or police, where they think they're more likely to accept the word of a prosecutor than an average person. He added that sometimes people bring cases for good reasons and bad, and asked if any potential juror had an issue with this concept. Juror number 68 admitted she had worked with prosecutors, police officers, and court people in her profession, but claimed it doesn't make it hard to be fair and impartial in a case where credibility is being questioned. So here we are with this, I guess the defense of Alec Baldwin is he is not the one that shot the gun, that it misfired. Now, this was a Colt 45. It killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins as well as shot the director in the shoulder. And Alec Baldwin claimed that the gun was cold. And his assistant had given, I think Dave Hall had given him the gun saying it's cold. And the assistant got it from the armorer. And a cold gun means no live rounds. Of course, I was trained. We all have been trained. A gun is always considered loaded until you witness and prove that it's not. You always have to assume. But he made the claim that he never pulled the trigger. We're also being told, according to MSN.com, actually there's another source to that, The Telegraph, that he would not do anything different, would not change anything because he never pulled the trigger. He made the claim that would change everything, that he never pulled the trigger. So he faces 18 months in prison if convicted of involuntary manslaughter. I don't think he would spend a day in jail. I think they would have him on, on either probation, and then, it might affect his ability to, carry arms and a variety of things that could happen. I don't think he's going to be in jail. But this happened on October 21st, 2021. I remember we were on air and they said there was an event and a shooting that happened in New Mexico. And we were like, what's going on? What's going on? And then we found out, and it was, whoa. And so this was an Italian-made Pieta pistol, a replica of a vintage 1873 model, because he was shooting a Western. And Baldwin said he pulled, then released the gun's hammer because Hutchins wanted a close-up camera angle of the gun's loaded barrel. And I believe he said, Helena Hutchins said, pointed at me in previous rehearsals, and he said, I don't want to. And the cinematographer, he states, said, that I need to get the shot. And so, unfortunately, you would think the shots would, this could have been so prevented. It's sad. So an FBI analysis of the weapon, because what the defense is going to say is he was just holding it. It went off by itself. The FBI analysis of the weapon concluded that the gun would not go off without the trigger being depressed. But Baldwin's lawyer complained that they hadn't had a chance to analyze it before the expert hit the fully cocked gun with a mallet and broke it as part of the analysis. So Baldwin's legal team has alleged that the full cock notch had been filed down, making it easier to fire. That allowed a mechanical failure or an accidental discharge without a trigger pull. Now, prosecutors dropped the charges last year, if you remember. They were convinced that the gun was modified, only to have a grand jury reinstate them in January after Lucine Hogg, an independent firearms expert, confirmed the findings of the FBI examination. So they looked at the gun, the safety mechanisms, and markings, and concluded the trigger had to be depressed to go off. But it had to rely on replacement parts to carry out some of the tests. So they said, although Alec Baldwin repeatedly denies pulling the trigger, given the tests, findings, and observations reported here, the trigger had to be pulled or depressed sufficiently to release the fully cocked or retracted hammer of the evidence revolver. So, a crew member who was holding a boom microphone during the rehearsal, Zach Sneesby, is expected to testify that he did see Baldwin pull the trigger of the revolver. It's, again, this, and when you're looking at pictures, it looks like his finger was on the trigger of the gun. And, negligent handling of a firearm should never happen, especially with somebody as, well-versed in, acting in Westerns and you would think, but here's the thing, we really let down our guard, especially when it comes to guns. In fact, you have many individuals on some political sides say, I don't even want to touch it, look at it, get it away from me. Whereas, back in the Wild West, everybody had a weapon. You knew your weapon, you cleaned your weapon, you protected your family with it. We're very anti-weapon because of the criminal element and all the things that have happened. But, you wonder how many of those crimes would be staved off if, we also know how to use weapons too. Now, I remember I was speaking at an event and I was sitting there at lunch and somebody was talking about, the news or whatever. And they go, oh my gosh, I would never have a gun. I would never touch a gun. I would never. And I go, I actually feel very comfortable because I know there's people here that have guns that carry. She's like, what? I go, yeah, there's people in the room that, many of us have concealed carries. And she just looked all shocked and white as a sheet. And I feel very, very comfortable when I'm in some rooms speaking, and I know, I know there's not going to be a mass shooting there because somebody's going to, protect the group. And I get it. I've seen what happened in Vegas on October 1, 2017, where somebody is up in a room in Mandalay Bay. Allegedly, he shot from two separate windows, but you wonder if there were more shooters involved. It was one of the biggest mass shootings that we have seen in recent history, and it happened in Las Vegas. And we do need to have a better grip on who is getting the guns, how to keep the guns out of criminals, how to protect people. But for those people who say, all I have to protect my family is bear spray, come on. But as I've said before, if somebody hands me a surgical tool in the OR, I examine the tool before I use it on the patient. And Alec Baldwin had a duty to examine the gun. 1-877-Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.